Portions of the following program may have been pre-recorded.
The following program's views, claims, or ideas may not reflect those of WSRR Radio or StylesRebelRadio.com.
Welcome to another episode of Behind Enemy Lines, your Cleveland sports talk show from Pittsburgh, right here on WSRR Radio, nationally local, meaning we play your local bands nationally. Listen on the Live 365 app or anywhere you get podcasts. This is Behind Enemy Lines, and I'm Lucas Durazio. I'm sitting here with a phone screen that has Dom Farrow on it, although once again, a little bit of a remote recording, not quite as unorthodox as last week. Thanks for sticking with us through that. I'll take the blame on that little unplanned vacation time. Went down to Florida and forced Dom to do half an episode by himself and me do the other half by myself. But hopefully it was an interesting listening experience. I thought it was pretty good.
I think it went well. I had a good time just talking to the people, getting some things off my chest.
Did. Yeah, getting your tinfoil hat on, talking about drones.
That's right. I don't know if you got to hear any of it, but yeah, I got into a little drones, Heisman talk, and then I talked about that Steelers-Browns game that happened in Week 14 that we were both at.
That's right. So if you guys haven't listened to that, go back on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you get your podcast, listen to episode 14. This is episode 15. We're recording on December 18th. So a little bit earlier than this is going to come out. It's Tuesday, December 18th. Week 15 has just wrapped in the NFL. But we're a little bit behind. Like you said, Dom, we wanted to talk about our personal experiences at the Browns-Steelers game in Pittsburgh. And we kind of talked about it a little bit separately, but now we're getting to reconvene and talk man-to-man, phone screen to phone screen here about our experiences at Acrisure.
That's right. So did you have a good time or what?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was, like I said last week, I was pleasantly surprised by, I didn't get heckled at all, which I was almost ready for it because, you're a Browns fan in Pittsburgh territory. We're a 3-win team, and they beat them 2 weeks prior, but I didn't really get anything. I was sitting in the season ticket holder seats, so I feel like all those people, they're not getting hammered before the game quite as much. They're fans that go every single week. So that might have swayed how my day went. But I thought it was pretty good. I talked to some nice people. Got a couple, Cleveland stinks, stuff like that. Just some jeers as I passed by group of Yinzers, but nothing crazy. And it was a good time overall. It wasn't my day, though. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it was a tough one for the Browns. But, going back to just the atmosphere at games, and this one, I don't know if it's just Steelers fans, but I've never really seen an issue of fans super going at somebody. I've never had that experience happen to me. Have you ever seen that at other games?
Well, really, this is only, this is the first away NFL game that I've ever been to. So obviously I've never had it happen to me before. I've never really seen too bad of an issue with Browns fans. I've never firsthand seen it. I mentioned last week that I had a friend who in Pittsburgh who went to the Browns game in Cleveland against the Steelers, the snow game that I was at, and they got heckled pretty bad, and it got close to some physical altercation. And, luckily everything was okay. But, no, I've never really had an issue with it. I feel like it just depends where you're at. And, it really depends who you are. How are you going to react to someone telling you, oh, Cleveland stinks or whatever? You're going to laugh about it and whatever?
I think that's the biggest thing there. It's really how the person reacts. It's never, because you can say all this stuff. It's a team. If you're taking it personal where you got to fight somebody, I think it's 99% of the time, it's the visiting fan who's causing the issue.
Yes, I would agree. And I think, I kind of understand it because like I said, I went into this game ready to be all right, I might have to fight someone today. Not physical altercation, but I was fully ready to be the asshole fan that was just hey, we won 2 weeks ago. Hey, we won 2 weeks ago,
Scoreboard.
Whatever. And yeah, kind of just hit that and be oh yeah, you guys are so good. You lost to a 2-win team 2 weeks ago, whatever. But kind of shrug it off and keep walking.
Damn, you had
ready for that. But
you had some lines ready.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I was ready to state the facts. I'm a very factual shit talker.
But then you
when I
got
used to do it in
there.
football.
Then you got there and you realize everyone's just happy. We just like football. We're not
Yeah,
too different.
it was
after
all right.
all.
I don't know about everyone was happy. I mean, like I said, there was some people sitting around me that instead of putting their attention towards me, they put it towards the guys in front of us because we were in front of the Browns bench, and they were like dead set determined on yelling at the punter Corey Bajorquez. I was like, all right, guys, like take it easy. I don't know what you're planning on accomplishing here, but
Yeah, that stuff's always interesting when they do that.
Yeah, and like I said, I think I said this in a prior episode, but like if you're there, you're that close to the action, you almost feel like I should be able to do something to impact this game and help my home team, right?
Yeah.
But you're not really making that big of a difference. You know how often they hear it.
I feel like most of the time it's the kicker that's getting heckled from the sidelines.
Yeah, which unfortunately Dustin Hopkins did get heckled, but it wasn't until after he missed 2 field goals that ruined their chances at winning the game. So
yeah,
I don't know if that heckling really impacted him. But with the heckling, I do have to say this. I don't know if you heard me say it last week, but I'll repeat it again. Jameis Winston is just fully living rent-free in Steelers fans' heads, apparently, because everyone around me was like, oh, Jameis stinks. Oh, we hate Jameis. He's the worst. Like, your quarterback's terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, talking all this shit about Jameis Winston. And I was like, guys, he's a 32-year-old journeyman backup. Like, relax on him. The one guy, someone even said, here we go, Jameis. Come on, Jameis. Like, something like that. And another fan goes, who's ever said that to Jameis Winston? Come on, Jameis. Maybe, like, his mom. Like, that's probably the only person that cheers him on, right?
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty bad.
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty
don't.
bad, like, shit talk. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
sounded not thought out.
It's just dumb. That's what most of it is. Just dumb drunk people. But I don't understand how people can hate Jameis Winston. The guy is a class
I know.
act.
That's why I was so shocked.
I watched that Hard Knocks episode. It made me like him even more. I know that there were some issues when he was in college. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he's a perfect guy. He's not a great guy, but he's not like, we don't got to hate this guy. There's plenty of guys we can hate more and say worse things about. So Jameis, yeah, there's really nothing to say about his talent at this point. He's obviously been a disappointment. His career didn't pan out how people thought it would, but
No.
he's still here. He's still battling. He was starting, but unfortunately, looks like the Browns are turning to DTR. What do you think about that?
That's right. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to start at least this week 16, whatever, their 16th game. Or what is it? 17th game, 14th, 15th, whatever. There's 3 games left. He's going to start this 15th game because there's 3 left, right? How's my math working here?
Oh, it's their 15th game, but it's week 16.
It's their 15th game. It's week 16. So there's 3 games left. I talked about this a lot last week too, actually. That I think that they probably should start him at some point. I wasn't sure if it was going to be this week yet, but you got to figure out what you have in him. Even if it is just a career backup, that's fine, but it's good to know that you have that. So it's like, all right, do we need to go draft a guy? Do we need to go, get a free agent guy or maybe wait out a couple years, do a bridge quarterback situation or what? But I think it's definitely it's better just to help plan for the future to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson in these last 3 games.
Listen, you got to know what you got in stock. It's not going to be easy these next few weeks. They got the Bengals. By the time you're listening to this on Monday, they've already played them, but they're 7-point underdogs going to this one. Week 17, they play the Dolphins, which at this point, I don't think either of those teams have much to play for. That one, I don't know. That could go either way. It could be a shootout, honestly. And then week 18, they finish up with the Ravens in Baltimore. It really doesn't get much easier for the Browns, and it's not going to be easy for DTR to really show that he's the future guy and that they should keep him around.
No, it is going to be tough, and it's compounded by, it's made a lot tougher when you truly aren't playing for anything. Guys are pretty much at this point in the season just playing for contract extensions. They're playing for themselves rather for the team. It makes it a lot tougher. It definitely does. But like you said, yeah, you gotta know what you have in stock. So I don't mind it. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they use him in different ways. I'd be interested to see if they're going to change up the offense, because I would assume running the offense with him versus running it with Jameis Winston is probably going to be different if you really wanted to build a team around Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So it'll be interesting to see what Stefanski does in these last 3 weeks. Yeah, we'll see. It'll be an interesting saga for Browns fans. The question is, do we go to Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward with the 4th or 5th pick? Because I personally say no. I don't think there's anyone in this draft that jumps off the page. I saw a TikTok that even said if Anthony Richardson was in this draft, he would be the number 1 pick. He would be the number 1 quarterback.
I don't know about that.
It was a breakdown on Anthony Richardson and why he can still be good for the Colts and blah, blah, blah. But basically the person making the video said, if Anthony Richardson were in this draft with everything we know about him in the NFL, he'd still be better than anyone in the draft.
I don't know. I can't get behind that exactly. I still think Shedeur Sanders and even Cam Ward, there's a lot of upside in the league. But I really don't think that the Browns are going to have this 3-4 pick that you think of, and I don't think either of those guys are going to be available for the Browns to take. I think they're going to be like a 7, 6, 7, maybe 5 overall. And
you think Cam Ward's going to be taken by 5?
Yes, 100%. With how valuable quarterbacks are, I'm not saying that he should be, but I do think that's the case. Giants are probably going to have the first overall pick. They have to take a quarterback.
All right. I guess, yeah.
It's either going to be the Raiders or the Giants. Patriots won't take one. Jaguars won't take one. Panthers won't be taking one. But yeah, if either the Giants or the Raiders, one of those don't take a quarterback, then yeah, you might get Shedeur or Cam Ward.
I was thinking about it last night when I was at my moonlight job of valeting. Do you think that there's a chance? I was thinking about teams like the Vikings because I was intently watching the Vikings game on Monday night, relying on some fantasy points to come in and I could make the playoffs. I did end up making the playoffs. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I was thinking about teams like the Vikings right now and the Lions right now, who are really good overall teams, right? They're well-rounded. They have good defenses, good running backs, good receivers, good offensive line. But really their quarterback isn't like an elite guy. Jared Goff has played really, really good this year. Sam Darnold obviously has also played really, really good this year. Do you think that we'll ever see a team make and win the Super Bowl again like we used to in like the 90s and 2000s, where like the Ravens won it because they had a really good defense and a good running back, but Trent Dilfer was their quarterback? Or like the Buccaneers, when they won, they had like an amazing defense. Their defense scored all the time, and Rich Gannon was their quarterback, I believe. I may have that wrong. It may be someone else. But it wasn't anyone who like was an amazing jump off the page guy.
No.
Jake Delhomme took the Panthers to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Do you think that'll happen ever again?
No. And if it is, it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, because their defense is that good. But I've seen it the last 6 years. Their defense is excellent. They can't win a playoff game. And maybe that says more about Mike Tomlin than the style of football. But you see these defensive-minded teams going into the playoffs every year, and they really can't get it done. I'd say the Eagles are probably the most physically dominant defensive team in the league, but they've also got a superpower offense. They've got both sides.
Uh-huh. Well, so do the Lions.
You need both.
I mean, the Lions, obviously, their offense has been at peak efficiency. But I'm just curious if there is a possibility for a team to make and win a Super Bowl without a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, a Joe Burrow even. I'd be interested to see if it happens in the next, 10 years.
Or are you saying?
I think the last team that we saw it with was probably the Rams when Jared Goff was their quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? Are you saying that Jared Goff isn't one of those guys?
Because I don't think that he's
because he could win another
He's not
one.
a plug-and-play guy like any of those other people, though. Like, where he's an elite, jump off the page. Like, if you have him, you have a chance, no matter what.
Yeah, but he's been really good everywhere he's been.
Jared Goff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also been on great teams.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah. And again, I'm not hating against Jared Goff at all. I love Jared Goff.
Lions were not a great team when he showed up.
No, not when he started, but they've built up. They have two of the best running backs in the league. They have a spectacular receiver core. Their offensive line is built the right way. Their defense is good. They have one of the best coaching staffs in the league. It's interesting to see, and I was thinking about that compared to past teams that have made and won a Super Bowl. This is Behind Enemy Lines, 216-859-8699. Let us know if you think there's an NFL roster building renaissance coming on the horizon.
Hi, this is Melissa.
And hey, it's Matt.
Coming at you from Synergy Music Studio.
We are a recording and production studio located on the south side near Chicago.
Check us out online at synergymusicstudio.com. We offer recording, mixing, and mastering.
And follow us on Instagram at Synergy Music Studio. Rock hard.
Welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines right here on WSRR Radio. We're brought to you by Synergy Music Studio, which is based out of Chicago. Synergy Music Studio offers a diverse array of musical services specifically crafted to meet our clients' needs. From recording to mixing and production. Discover how we can bring your vision to life at synergymusicstudio.com. Dom, you ever heard of wet dog food?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've seen it. It's disgusting.
What's the deal with that stuff? Why are they making food for wet dogs?
That's a good one. I've
been working
Ladies
on
and
that.
gentlemen,
I've been
give it
cooking
up.
That one up.
Give it
I've
up.
been cooking that joke up. So, Dom, we failed to mention one thing that we wanted to touch on that we talked about a little bit last week. It comes back to the stadium aura and electricity at Acrisure Field.
That's
right. Pittsburgh Polka.
Mm-hmm.
You were kind of hating on it last week a little bit.
Listen, I wasn't hating on it. I was saying that maybe for outsiders that it's not the most hip tune to get the people hyped up. It's not Meek Mill out in Philly. It's not any of that.
Then you were
stuff.
like, they play some new stuff. They play Wiz Khalifa, and I was like, all right.
You were there.
He's a
You
Pittsburgh
heard it.
guy. I get it. Yeah, I mean, they play that and Mac Miller, like you mentioned.
I'm saying, listen, it's not all just polkas. We got some good stuff too. Playing
the
Metallica.
Pittsburgh polka got me fired up.
That's what you were saying.
Even though, obviously, Browns fan, can't cheer for the Steelers. I kind of like wasn't looking at the screen, and then all I hear is like bump, 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 bump. And I was like, "What is this?" And I'm looking at it and like not looking, and I like hear the song start playing, and I'm like trying not to like it, obviously. But then I'm like, I'm like a vintage guy. Like I like stuff like that. That's like vintage, like thrifted, old timey stuff. And like I hear that, and I was like, I'm kind of fucking with this pretty hard right now. I'm not gonna lie.
This is pretty good.
Like, bump, 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 bump. We're from the town with the great football team. We cheer the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was with the thick, like Italian and Polish accent. I was fucking with that heavy. I'm not gonna lie.
That does make it better.
Like
that immigrant mentality.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was really good. But you didn't think that I would like it?
Well, I also said further on, I was like, I just don't think that other teams have this much history. I just don't, in my mind, Steelers have like the deepest history in the NFL.
That's just not true.
Like, I don't think the Browns are playing stuff from like the 70s before their names get hyped. That just in my head, that's the way I'm thinking of it.
Just
though.
Don't.
I'm like, the
Such
Steelers
a
history is so
way of looking at things.
deep.
Like, oh, only the Steelers were a football team.
That's not the way. I mean, obviously, like the Packers probably do, but I can't think of like I don't think the Chiefs are playing a song from the 70s and showing videos of like a running back from the 70s. They're showing Patrick Mahomes. They're showing
I think you'd
Travis Kelce.
I think
I'd
they're
have to see
showing
it.
Priest Holmes and Christian Okoye. I think they're showing highlights of them and
Maybe Tony G.
Marcus Allen.
I don't think
Even Montana when he was there.
I don't think that the Seahawks are playing videos of Russell Wilson. I don't think they're playing videos of like Steve Largent. They're showing videos of DK, Geno. I just don't think the history is as deep with other franchises. I don't think the Rams are
With
doing
the
that
Seahawks,
stuff.
maybe not. With
The
the
Rams
Seahawks,
aren't.
maybe not. The Rams probably not because they moved to LA and they were, it's kind of like whatever. And
Honestly,
also, it's
all of the
LA.
NFC
People in
West
LA,
except the 49ers.
Yeah, it depends on the team. I mean, I think like pretty much any Midwest team is going to do stuff like that. Midwest, East Coast. I think the Jets probably do that. I mean, look at the Jets. They went back to their uniforms that they wore in the 80s this year to like honor the past and do stuff like that.
Yeah,
Browns
but they
did
aren't
the same
showing
thing with the white face mask. I think they are.
They aren't
I think you're
showing
wrong.
videos of Darrelle Revis and Joe Namath before the games, is what I'm saying.
I think you'd be surprised. Anyways,
I'd love to see it.
I don't think the Steelers on the Pittsburgh Poker will be showing many highlights from this past week. We can jump into that. Played the Eagles in Philadelphia, cross-state rivalry, and the Eagles came out with the victory.
Tough one.
Dom, before we started recording, you said, I don't know if the Steelers are Super Bowl contenders anymore because of this one game. Everything's so up and down in the NFL, isn't it? 1 week, Super Bowl contender. Next week, it's like, oh, man, we got to start rebuilding.
Yeah, in some ways I was joking. In other ways I was deadly serious. I've been saying every week that they're contenders, and I meant that. The way they were playing, the way they were beating teams in this like AFC North style, I was just really loving what I was seeing. But then you watch this game, it just looked like they were playing a different football game. A lot of crucial plays in this game didn't go the Steelers' way. I think a lot of fans are really hating on Najee Harris unfairly for his fumble in the fourth quarter. It was just a bad game from the start. Multiple 3-and-outs to start the game. It's just a different brand of football. I look at A.J. Brown, and obviously the Steelers were missing George Pickens in this game, but I compare those two guys, and it's different. You look at Jalen Hurts, you look at the offensive line, it just looks like the better version of the Steelers. They just were the completely more dominant team in this game.
Do you think that the Eagles had enough tradition going into the game because did they do a chant? EAGLES Eagles. Was that okay for you or no?
They played the Rocky theme song, and I tweeted every single time that the Steelers play the Eagles. I say that, and this is from a Bill Burr stand-up set, by the way, but it was that Rocky Balboa is Philadelphia's greatest athlete, and he's a fictional character. They got nothing. They got nothing on Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, because Pittsburgh's got so much going for it.
Are you kidding me right now? You compare the athletes that have come out of Pittsburgh to the ones out of Philly, it's not even comparable.
Yeah, but Philly's a better city.
That's debatable. Philly's disgusting.
Philly's fun.
Philly's cool. There's a lot of opportunities, and
I might be going to Philly this weekend actually.
oh yeah.
So we'll see. I'll have to report back.
It's good
know.
if you like crowds and disgusting places, but also like a lot more stuff. Pittsburgh's smaller, less traffic,
Pittsburgh's
cheaper.
like no crowds, not as much stuff to do, but just as disgusting. So
Not just, it's way cleaner. It is significantly cleaner, and it's significantly cheaper.
not the air quality. The air quality is disgusting.
Yeah, it's bad everywhere.
You know, I grew up in Cleveland. I kind of prided myself on always having a pretty good like immune system. I didn't get sick very often. I had like perfect attendance in school a couple of times without even recognizing it, just because I just wasn't sick. I didn't have any reason not to go to school. Once I got to college here in Pittsburgh, I started getting sick all the time. And I don't know if it was because I blame it on the air quality of Pittsburgh because it's one of the worst in the nation. It's probably more than likely because I was living in dorms with another 100 dudes just, side by side with me, meeting all these new people, drinking every weekend, which, my body had never done, getting way less sleep and doing stuff like that. But I'm going to blame it on the air quality of Pittsburgh. That's my go-to.
I mean, I think that drinking is probably the number one factor, but also it was disgusting in those dorms. I got pneumonia like within the first couple months of college. Lost like 20 pounds.
Oh, you were looking cut.
Not in a good way, though. I was looking like a skeleton, though. And, yeah, I mean, I definitely got it through just that gross air circulating in those dorms.
Yeah, quite a bit. I don't think that
I lived with
I don't think there's many sanitary codes that are getting met there.
I lived with 2 other people in about a 10 by 10 room.
Yeah, you had it rough. You had it rough freshman year. You were bunking with three dudes.
Yeah, it was super
Well, you and
spreader.
2 others.
Super spreader city before COVID. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's a wild story. That's a story for another day. But college, what a time. What a disgusting place.
Yes, it was quite gross. Another place that's kind of gross sometimes is New Orleans. New Orleans playing Green Bay. Is it in New Orleans or is it in Green Bay?
It is in Green
Because
Bay.
Green Bay is kind of gross sometimes too. There's a lot of dairy going on there. There's probably a lot of lactose intolerant people there as well with the dairy. That doesn't mix very well. New Orleans going to Green Bay on Monday night, the day that this episode comes out on WSRR radio. Here's your Monday night preview. Like I said, Saints traveling to Green Bay. Kickoff at 8:15. The spread is set at 14. Matt, Packers are minus 14.
Wow.
Dom, what do you think of this one?
Wow, that's a big
Packers
number.
have a lot to play for. Saints don't have much to play for.
Yeah. I'd say that Packers, they do have a lot to play for, and they look like a really good team. 14 points is a lot, though. But this Saints quarterback, what's his name? What's this new guy?
Jake Hayner?
Yeah, who is he? I had never seen this guy. I never heard of him. And now I see like pictures of him. Like it looked like it's out of like a movie. Like, is this real?
Are they the pictures where he was like smoldering super hard at his rookie photo shoot?
Yeah, it looked like it was out of like a set of a movie.
Yeah, he looked hilarious. He did that last year, like as a joke, I guess, and obviously because he was like a practice squad quarterback. I don't know where the hell he's from. He was big this week in our fantasy league because I needed someone else to win, and they had Derek Carr as their quarterback, who was apparently out, so they picked up Jake Hayner, and he got him a solid 2 points.
Yippee!
Which went a long way in helping get that win. But yeah, I mean,
Fresno
I don't know
State
what
and
happened.
Washington.
What's that?
Fresno State and Washington.
Fresno State in Washington.
Yeah.
That's where he went?
Yeah.
Which one first?
Washington, 2017,
I'm gonna guess-
2018.
Yeah.
And he was drafted in the 4th round of the 2023 draft.
Fresno State Bulldogs. I love it.
Fascinating. Well, from what I've seen from the guy, he stinks. Packers offense is explosive. I'll take 14 and take the 14 points.
Yeah, I'd like to also take that. I think that, like I said, the Packers are playing a lot right now. That division is obviously very hot with them, the Vikings and the Lions. I think that, like you said, they're not going to keep it close here. They're going to try to blow them out, and I think they do. I'll take the minus 14 as well. So tune into that on Monday night on ESPN or ABC. I don't know where the hell they play that stuff.
No Simpsons
I
all
just-
cast this week.
I usually watch it on meth streams, so that's my go-to, and I think that everyone that listens to this show knows that that's our go-to is meth and crack streams. So watch it there. There was something else we had to talk about, right? Something football,
Fantasy football. It's been
fantasy football.
an interesting year. It's that playoff season. I lost.
That's right. So
in all
Dom,
the playoffs.
I
My
heard last
season's
week
over.
you said both of your seasons are over. I was going to ask what's the end of season synopsis? Are these both single season leagues?
One's the dynasty that I felt really good about all year, and you know
How
what?
many years in is your
It's
dynasty?
first year, and I feel really good about the future too. So
Give us some highlights.
the highlights in the lowlights. First, I'll give you the lowlights. Najee Harris did nothing against the Eagles. The defensive line destroyed the Steelers. He got 4 points. George Pickens being out obviously hurt a ton. Rashid Shaheed.
You went with a whole Steeler team, didn't you?
Yeah, and I
Or
got
is it just those two?
I got Russ and Justin Fields and Calvin
Good
Austin.
Lord.
It's a 30-man roster. But I feel really good about the depth going into next year. I don't know who I'm going to take with this first pick because I'm going to have like the 10th overall pick now, which I'm like, I wish I just would have tanked for Genti at this point. But yeah, we lost this week. I was in 4 leagues. I drafted Ayuk in 3 out of the 4. That basically tells you everything you need to know. I know nothing, but I'll be back next year, sure enough, and we'll try to win another one. Been looking for it since about 2013 or 2014. Won it in like my 2nd or 3rd year ever doing fantasy football. Playing multiple leagues every year. Still searching for that high ever since.
It's a grind. It is a grind, and it's tough to get there, right?
It's impossible for me.
The last fantasy football league that I won was the year before we started doing a buy-in for it, of course. And of course, we did it. And at the beginning of the season, I said, all right, what are we going to do? Like $50, something like that. And people said, yeah, sure, we'll do that. I win the season I win the league at the end of the season. I'm like, all right, you guys send me some money, like whatever. And they're like, no, we're not doing cash. I was like, what? Like, I thought that was the whole reason I was in this. It ends up I was the only one who was consistently checking my lineup because I thought that we had cash in. But that's beside the subject.
Have you
made
ever
the playoffs in my league this year? Go on.
This was going to be a little off topic, but have you ever won a March Madness pool?
Never once. Terrible at them.
I won that once. That was the greatest high, and that got me hooked on gambling at a young age.
I don't think I know anything about sports.
Help, I have a crippling addiction.
Because I never win any of my sports bets. I never win a March Madness bracket. My fantasy team, well, I guess we've been the most consistent program in the league. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. Maybe I just don't know sports at all.
Maybe we don't know ball.
Quit. Maybe we really don't.
Maybe we never knew ball.
Maybe we never knew it.
Have you ever seen the meme of the astronaut with the gun behind him?
It's all Ohio.
Something like that. That's basically how it is. I never knew ball. I don't know ball. You never knew ball.
Yeah, that's how I feel right about
every
now.
year. Every year at the end of fantasy football, you never knew. What were you thinking? And I write notes, or I tell myself to write notes every year, and then I write like 2 notes, and I don't listen to myself. Last year I wrote like, you need Amon-Ra St. Brown. It was like draft Lamar, and then and then I look at the notes. I was like, let me go back to those notes I wrote last year. I look at them like, this is nothing. It's like
The note just says get the best players.
It's like SpongeBob with like the fucking with the pencil on his head. Like I didn't know anything. So I need to write some notes. I need to get in the lab, and we got to really reevaluate our process in the draft because it was poor. The league I care about the most, I drafted 4 straight receivers. I talked about this last week, but you can't do that. I got to learn from those mistakes, and we got to move on. It was pitiful for me.
I'm sorry to hear that. You can now put all of your hope into my fantasy football season.
Let's go.
Made the playoffs.
Manu Ginobili.
3rd year in a row. We're 3 years into our dynasty league. I'm the only team to have made it all 3 years into the playoffs.
Wow.
Started the season 0-4. Was fully looking at number 1 draft picks, who I was going to take. I think it took me until week 5 to score over 100 points.
Wow.
Then we ripped off.
What changed?
I think 4 or 5 straight wins. Joe Burrow, he's terrible. He's always terrible the first couple weeks.
MVP numbers, so.
And ever since, yeah, he's been putting up MVP numbers. It's been like that the last couple of years. He's started terrible, and then he's come out of the blocks hot. I'm worried, Dom. My running backs going into the playoffs, I'm down to Kareem Hunt, Justice Hill, or Kenneth Gainwell. I need to pick 2 of those 3 running backs to play. I had David Montgomery, who got hurt this week, sprained his MCL, is going to be out until at least the playoffs, so that it's done for me for fantasy football.
Season-ending injury.
And I had J.K. Dobbins, who J.K. Dobbins is now also on the IR. So my 2 starting running backs are out. I have good receivers, good young Qs, Joe Burrow and Drake May. I have a plethora of receivers, but and I have Brock Bowers, who was the number 1 tight end in the league this year. But my running backs, I think, are really going to kill me. And I think I'm going to be looking at a first-round exit in all honesty.
I liked what I saw from Kenneth Gainwell last week. I think you might have some there, a lot of upside.
I hope so. And I think Justice Hill also, is a guy who gets spotty, and like every once in a while he'll get 10 touches in a game. And he actually scored a touchdown last week. And the Ravens do play the Steelers this upcoming week. So sorry to say it to you, Dom, but I do hope that Justice Hill gets some carries, rotates in with Derrick Henry, and makes an impact on that game. I need that pretty bad. I'm playing the number 1 team in the league. Shout out to Jack. He has scored over 200 points the last 2 weeks. And 2 weeks ago was the first time that anyone had ever scored 200 points in our league.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of David versus Goliath here.
So does he have Josh Allen or Jamar Chase or both?
He has Josh Allen. I don't think he has Jamar Chase. I'd have to look more closely at his roster. I haven't really gone into my game prep this week to look up how we're going to scheme them up, but I'll have to do that soon.
You'll be scheming some things up.
It's crazy that my fantasy football team actually has a culture in the locker room, because just like a gritty AFC North team, like once the weather starts getting cold, Manu Ginobili starts winning games. We start pounding the rock on the ground. I don't know how it happens, but something in the air. Once it gets a little crisper, once those leaves start changing, we start crunching over them. We get hot and we start playing ball. This is Behind Enemy Lines, 216-859-8699. Let us know how your fantasy teams went this season. Be back right after the break.
Hey everyone, are you busy during the 3 p.m. hour to the 4 p.m. hour?
No.
Well, good news for you specific people.
Me?
Yes, you.
Wow.
There is a show. Coincidentally, I'm the host. My name is Shaney. The show is off air. Go to WSRRradio.com 3 to 4 every day.
My life has gotten substantially better.
Has it?
No. But at least I'm listening to off air.
Welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines right here on WSRR Radio. This is your Cleveland sports show from Pittsburgh. We talked about a little bit of Pittsburgh polka in our last segment. One company that may like Pittsburgh polka is Hellbender Vinyl right here in Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh's first and only custom vinyl record pressing plant and a proud supporter of WSRR Radio. It's one of America's most trusted record pressing plants, and it's perfect for local and independent artists who want to take their album release to the next level. Don't settle for a bunch of ones and zeros floating around the internet. Have a physical album release with Hellbender Vinyl. Vinyl, we've talked about, is just like, it's one of those great American industries that this country was built on, and now this country is being built on drones, right?
Yeah,
they're building up the country. That's what you were talking about last week, right?
I got into that a little bit. Listen, I knew we had to have some type of unhinged segment on the show. I had to bring it. I was all over the place, talked about Heisman, talked about fantasy football a little bit, and then, we had to talk about these drones. And I had a lot more to say about it, but I didn't want to get too into the weeds on some things. But I did want to walk back.
You have some statements to redact. Right?
I need to walk back a statement I made yesterday or on last week's episode. I was like, man, if I saw one of these, I'd probably try to shoot it down if I was in the middle of nowhere. And I'm Pittsburgh. Said that. I said it in the middle of nowhere at least. But I'd like to back down the statement of even going near those things or touching them. No lasers, no guns, no nothing. I'm staying away from them, and you should too.
You're scared, huh?
I'm just scared that people would listen to that and be like, yeah, he's right. And then the next thing you know, the FBI's like, you told them to what? You said you'd do what now? Yeah, so I'm going to
So it's gonna be your
redact.
fault.
So we need to pull that episode stat now. But yeah, these drones are interesting, and it's just fascinating what's happening.
So tell me what's going on. I don't know anything about it. I'm chronically offline.
See,
I'm just too unplugged. I'm just enjoying my own life too much, I guess.
I'm
Even though I know
chronically
all about the Costco guys.
I'm chronically online. Not on TikTok though, just like Twitter. And it's bizarro world over there. I hate it, but I love it at the same time. I can't get off of it. And yeah, there's a lot of drone talk, but like I said last week, I don't know what to trust. I don't know what to believe. But yet even the government's like saying they've confirmed like thousands of these drones. Some of them have been like, manned arrow. I don't freaking know.
Wait, the drones have people in them?
No, the government or something released a statement today being like, yeah, we know that there's been a lot of like flight activity around, but we don't think it's anything that big of a deal. I've been trying to find it on Twitter, but like I said again last week, Twitter is a useless search engine where I'm seeing like memes, seeing stuff about Star Wars and drones. I want to find out like what these drones are. Instead, it's all memes.
Yeah, so my
And Joe
latest
Rogan
update
and Bitcoin
about it was pretty much that my latest update was pretty much that they didn't know anything about them. That local officials, right, weren't they kind of saying like, we're looking into it, but we haven't really heard anything, and it might be from an Iranian mothership, but we don't really know. And are they dangerous? Kind of. We're not really sure. Like, it seems like everything's like up in the air, and even like the people who you want to just tell you anything are even like, yeah, we don't really have anything to tell you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that Iranian like mothership or whatever this guy was saying, I think that was all fabricated. But I found the tweet. Homeland Security tweeted out with the FBI and the Department of Defense that there are more than 1 million drones lawfully registered with the FAA. Blah, blah, blah. FBI has received tips of more than 5,000 reported drone sightings in the last weeks, with approximately 100 leads generated, and the federal government is supporting state and local officials in investigating these reports. But basically it said, we recognize concern, but we don't really see an issue, but we'll keep monitoring the situation, which I don't know. I don't know what that means.
So nothing has been confirmed or denied.
But they've acknowledged it at least. That's the thing. Like, yeah, we know about it, but could just be anything, really. It's basically what they're saying.
I mean, this has been going on since like Thanksgiving, right?
I don't know if it's been that long. Probably about 2 weeks, I think. 2-3 weeks. But yeah, it's interesting. The timing of all this stuff, I don't know if you believe in aliens. I personally do.
I do.
And I think
How can you not?
Yeah, I think if you don't, you're kind of foolish. But I think they're definitely beings more knowledgeable than us out there. If I had to just guess, they're infinite universes. Some of them have to know more than we do. But
someone out there is smarter than us.
But I think sometimes they see what's going on and they just like check in. Things are getting a little like I've heard stories that like when they were doing the nuclear tests, like the Manhattan Project during World War II, that there were like a lot of UFO sightings around there because like nuclear power is just something kind of unfathomable to humans before that time. And I think they're kind of seeing maybe they're seeing stuff now and just coming in to check it out. Maybe it's UFOs. I think that's best case scenario.
Now I think that I've thought before about like extraterrestrials and life beyond our planet. But don't you think that like just because our planet is in such that Goldilocks area difference away from the sun and that distance where it's like the perfect life, don't you think that like any other life that was formed around a star would also have to be at like the perfect thing, and then they probably would end up, their landscape would probably be very similar to ours, So pretty much I've heard before that if there is life in another galaxy, that it's probably very similar to the evolutionary process that we've taken.
That's an interesting theory right there. But who's to say that they like need the same stuff to survive that we do?
That's true. I guess. Yeah, I mean, there is obviously a possibility that we just haven't,
just a completely different being.
We haven't discovered the same elements that another life form lives off of. But even if they were human, basically, or humanoid creatures that were kind of like us and had like similar intelligence, their civilization could have started thousands or hundreds of thousands of years before ours did.
It's true.
Their evolution just was quicker for whatever reason. So like maybe they're like us in the future, kind of, and that's where the multiverse comes in, huh? Stuff like that.
That's some really deep stuff. And speaking of multiverses, it's getting really kind of on topic, but apparently Google came out with this like quantum computing chip that basically it did some problem that would take a normal computer like 10 quintillion years to solve. It basically said that they think that there's possibility that there are like multiverses that's like pulling this stuff from. And this happened around the same time that these drones are appearing. So maybe again, it's something that's just too powerful, too unfathomable that someone out there is like making sure that things are being kind of kept under wraps, kept under control.
All right.
It's
Someone
deep.
needs to stop someone is what I'm gathering.
Someone needs to get these drones out of the sky.
How many Mission Impossible type missions do you think there's ever been in the world to like stop the end of the world? Do you think that's ever actually happened?
No.
You know how like in movies it's like the world is gonna end
Yeah.
if like such and such whatever. You don't think that's ever actually happened?
That
was a fear of mine.
like in
as a
Batman.
child.
Batman when he takes the bomb out to the ocean.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit,
Yeah, something
you
like
just
that.
saved the day. You just saved the city. No, I don't think anything like that has ever happened.
You don't think it's ever happened though? Like in my mind as a kid, I was like watching like superhero movies, and obviously I didn't think superheroes were real. But like, maybe like a Mission Impossible thing where like they stop a terrorist at the last second, but like no one knows it ever happened because they can't tell people that a terrorist attack happens. I was like, I wonder how many of those happen in a day. That was my thought as a child. Maybe not in a day, but like in a year.
But to go through all the extra effort of those Mission Impossibles, they go crazy. How many people do you think are hanging on the side of airplanes?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not super tapped into the
Me,
Mission
it's had to have-
Impossible franchise.
It's had to have happened.
What? Hang off
Someone's
the side of an airplane?
Yeah. Someone's had to have been that desperate to hang on.
I'm sure people have definitely died that way. I don't know if anyone's survived.
Could you imagine doing like a whole like 2-hour flight just hanging on for dear life?
Hanging on the side. That would be I don't think I'd be able to do
That
it.
would be pretty awesome. If it
I don't
was
think anyone
possible.
would be able to do it actually.
What if they strapped you in and gave you like oxygen?
I don't know. My grip strength wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, I'm saying they'll strap you in, so like there's no chance of you.
And they gave me oxygen, so I'm just like, what? I'm just wearing a spacesuit type thing?
Yeah, and you're
Yeah, sure,
and
why
you're
not?
flying. Yeah,
Yeah.
they should offer that experience on airplanes. Please, if you're listening to this, airplane, airline, please don't steal this idea. I'm gonna sell it to you.
Dom, this episode comes out on December 23rd, Monday. December 23rd is Festivus.
Really,
I'm not sure how you're not quite as much of a Seinfeld fan,
I've heard of
are
it.
you? You're more of a Curb Your Enthusiasm. You've heard of it?
Yeah,
You've heard of Seinfeld or Festivus? What are you trying to say?
Festivus.
Okay, good. Festivus is a very sacred holiday in my family. We're diehard Seinfeld fans, which I actually didn't even realize that this episode came out on that day until just now.
No
So
way.
just to do our family's holiday some justice in Seinfeld's holiday, the Costanza family, their holiday, some justice, I think we could give a quick airing of grievances. My airing of grievances was with Frontier Airlines. I flew down to Florida last week. Our bag was 8 pounds over the 40-pound weight limit, and we had to pay $100 for 8 pounds. What's the point of that?
It's ridiculous.
What does it matter how heavy my bag is? I mean, at some point, obviously, I'm sure it
Apparently
does.
it
but, like,
does.
what is me giving you the $100 going to help the plane?
Doesn't it helps the
How's that
companies?
going to make it? It's like what if I don't give them $100, then the plane's not going to be able to take off because of that extra 8 pounds.
I mean, they just want
What's the point of that?
They just want an excuse to make a little extra dough. Obviously, it's able to get on the plane.
Yeah, no shit. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's a grievance.
So you gotta get something that you gotta be able to measure your bags.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's stupid.
To weigh your bags. I mean, not measure.
I wouldn't have a grievance with it if it made sense.
Listen, I got no grievances.
You don't have a single grievance?
Not one.
That's bullshit.
Zero to air out on a radio station.
That's a lie. You have so many grievances.
I mean,
What
I gotta
about with
think.
The Steelers.
I mean, Steelers.
You got 20 seconds.
I've already aired the Steelers' grievances out. I think they're still Super Bowl contenders. I still think Mike Tomlin is the guy. But if TJ Watt cannot get it back together by the time playoffs start, we're going to be in trouble. But here we go, Steelers. And good luck against the Ravens. Lamar can never do anything against us.
All right, we'll see how that goes for the Steelers this week against the Ravens. This has been Behind Enemy Lines. Thanks for tuning in. 216-859-8699 is the number to text or call in. Let us know your grievances this Festivus. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines.
Peace.
The preceding program is a StylesRebelRadio.com production.